Entertainment Weekly did an amazing article about the Battle of Winterfell, and now I'm even more excited and terrified for episode 3. Spoilers are in this video for realsies. Massive spoilers. Don't watch if you don't want spoilers for the final season of Game of Thrones. I am super serial about this. Okay, for some context, this article was put out by James Hibbard of Entertainment Weekly, who has had close ties with HBO and done a lot of inside reporting of the Game of Thrones show. This article gave information and details on the big battle at Winterfell that is happening in this final season, and behind the scenes kind of glimpses. And the article begins with some of the scariest writing ever. The great battle is over. The snowy ground is streaked with blood. Beloved heroes lay dead outside the castle gates. Winterfell is quiet. I know we can expect quite a few characters that we love to die this season, but the plural in heroes really has me worried. At least that means they're not rezzed by the Night King, right? Because they're laying dead on the ground. Or maybe they die, the Night King rezzes them, and then their friends have to kill them again. Jesus. This article goes on with a quote from Game of Thrones director David Nutter saying, "The fans will not be let down. There are a lot of firsts in these episodes. There's the funniest sequence I've ever shot on this show, the most emotional and compelling scene I've ever shot, and there's one scene where there's so many major characters together, it feels like you're watching a superhero movie." I'm sure with the superhero shot, he's talking about this lineup at the beginning of the battle. As for the funniest scene, we were told there would be some heavy improv comedy scene or scenes this season, so I guess that's going to be a thing, but if David Nutter finds it funny, I guess I'll hope for the best. With the first in general, there's been a lot of talk about this battle sequence breaking some records besides the consecutive filming days, so keep your eyes out during this battle to see all the groundbreaking things they're going to be doing. The article then spoils something. If you follow the leaks, you already know is coming. There will be 2 huge battles in the final season. We have this huge battle at Winterfell, and then of course the huge battle at King's Landing, where we saw tons of leaks of the newly built King's Landing set being attacked and breached. I'm taking some really heavy fire damage, and there's also going to be 1 or more dragons at King's Landing, but this video isn't about that. So EW says that the 3rd episode of the final season will chronicle the greatest battle at Winterfell that pits an uneasy collection of allies against the Night King and his army of the undead. This battle was the longest consecutive battle sequence ever done, requiring 11 weeks of night shots and up to 750 people working all night long for nearly 3 months in freezing temperatures, and bringing the largest number of Game of Thrones characters together, including Dany, Jon, Tyrion, Arya, Sansa, and Brienne, all fighting for their lives. Now what's interesting is in this article, they say that Sansa will be fighting for her life during the battle at Winterfell. And this makes me feel like Sophie talking about Sansa being the warrior of Winterfell this season maybe isn't an exaggeration. Are we really going to see Sansa shanking some undead? I still just can't see it, even if this article is hinting at that. If Arya's running like a little bitch, no way Sansa fares better than her. But maybe Sansa is in a room with Bran, and since the Night King wants Bran dead, he'll concentrate sending whites after Bran, and Sansa will have to protect him. Much like their mother once defended him against an enemy. Though I guess there isn't a summer this time. Though the Night King sending a white summer to kill Bran would be absolutely fantastic. In a sick way, I know. But yeah, it's interesting that this article said Sansa will be fighting for her life, because I kind of figured she would just be holed up in a room while the battle went on outside and around Winterfell, and maybe a little bit inside Winterfell too. Okay, maybe I'd be a little excited to see Sansa swing a sword at a white, but just a little bit. Not too much. Randomly, we know that during the battle, Sansa and Arya have an action sequence together, but what exactly that is isn't exactly known. However, it was mocked up via animation, so they would know exactly what to do. I'm still crossing my fingers for Sansa and Arya being together at one point during the battle at Winterfell, and Arya protecting her sister. But more on the battle at Winterfell. So if you remember Field of Fire 2.0, you remember the sequence where we followed Bronn and him getting the anti-dragon weapon. From other interviews, we're basically getting that during the huge Winterfell battle, but with multiple characters and multiple perspectives. Which Brian Cogman, co-executive producer of the show, talked about this to EW, stating, "What we've asked the production team and crew to do this year truly has never been done in television or in movie. This final face-off between the army of the dead and the army of the living is completely unprecedented and relentless, and a mixture of genres even within the battle. There are sequences built within sequences, built within sequences. David and Dan wrote an amazing puzzle, and Miguel came in and took it apart and put it together again. It's been exhausting, but I think it will blow everybody away." This quote goes back to other interviews where they said we're going to follow different characters' point of views, or at least their progress through the battle. So I wouldn't doubt if we got a point of view scene or sequence from Arya, Sansa, Sam, Jon, Dany, and so on. I have to imagine the chaos of this battle is going to be insane, and I think one thing they've done really well on this show is to show the chaos of battle. I've been in a lot of medieval battles. Trust me. Don't trust me. Maisie, Arya's actress, also talked a bit about her character being in her first Game of Thrones battle during James Hibbard's time on set. Maisie told him, "I skip the battle every year, which is bizarre since Arya's the one who's been training the most. This is my first taste of it, and I've been thrown in at the deep end." You think, Maisie? Maisie explained that she was told to start training and the battle sequences would be hard, but nothing prepared her for it. She said, "But nothing can prepare you for how physically draining it is. It's night after night, and again after again, and it just doesn't stop. You can't get sick, and you have to look out for yourself because there's so much to do that nobody else can do. There are moments you're just broken as a human and just want to cry." If you remember a little bit ago, other actors did interviews where they talked about filming the Battle at Winterfell, and they said they honestly thought they were trying to break them. That's intense. But we also have some fresh whining. Jorah's actor Ian talked about the battle with James Hibbard as well, saying, "It was the most unpleasant experience I've had on Thrones. A real test. Really miserable. You get to sleep at 7 in the morning, and when you wake in the midday, you're still so spent you can't really do anything. And then you're back. You have no life outside it. You have an absolute fucked bunch of actors. But without getting too method acting about it, on screen it bleeds through to the reality of the Thrones world." So I know this is a little sick, but I actually look forward to seeing how exhausted the actors were showing up on screen in the final season. I don't know, it just adds to the realism. Anyways, even the Hound's actor Rory shared, "Everybody prays they never have to do this again. But Liam, the lovable actor for Davos, said the crew were actually the fucking heroes of shooting this Winterfell battle, and that the crew members got in 40,000 steps a day." This next part of the article made me so happy. This might be just a me problem, but sometimes when there's too much action in a film, I get bored, my eyes start to glaze over. At a certain point, I don't care, especially with car chase scenes, not that we're gonna get one of those this final season. Well, we are not getting that in these big battles this season, so thank God. The director of the sequence, Miguel, explained that when preparing for the battle at Winterfell for the final season, he tried to find longer battle sequences in cinema history and couldn't find what he wanted. The closest thing he could find was the 40-minute Helm's Deep siege in Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. He studied the battle to find when fatigue set in from too much hacking and slashing, saying, "It feels like the only way to really approach it properly is to take every sequence and ask yourself, why would I care to keep watching? One thing I found is the less action, the less fighting you can have in a sequence, the better." Again, think of Bronn in Field of Fire 2.0. When you're just not watching tons of hacking and slashing and you're carrying and following one person, or more I guess in this battle, it's a lot more entertaining. Apologies to the Michael Bay fanatics who love explosions and shit. That just does not entertain me. Another challenge for Miguel was that in previous battles he had followed Jon's perspective only, but in this battle he had 20-some cast members. He found this difficult because, in his own words, "Here I've got 20-some cast members and everybody would like it to be their scene. That's complicated because I find the best battle sequences or when you have a strong point of view. I keep thinking, whose story am I telling right now? This is where he did something really cool. So he would ask the actors and actresses to come up with a story of what they were doing between their scenes or between the camera being on them. For example, John Bradley, Sam's actor, shared, "We may not have seen Sam for 10 minutes, but something has happened to Sam in those 10 minutes. You've been fighting, or you've been running, or you've been hiding. How has your story developed? You have to hold in your mind what's happened since we saw you last." In fact, Miguel would randomly go up to the actors during the battle and ask them why they were there and what they were fighting for. Some actors, of course, had really sarcastic replies. I'm betting Maisie was one of those people. This next part is interesting. During the filming of the battle, not the actual fighting, but them standing around, there was an actress that is a main character who fainted, and they had to call a medic, and she had to go home early and then come back the next day. They're not saying who it was, but I'm guessing Maisie, because Maisie talked quite a bit in recent interviews how they told her you need to train and be prepared for this, and she said, I was not prepared for this at all. I think maybe in interviews after the season is released, they'll share more stories like that, but I'm betting it was Maisie. The article talked about some things those of us that followed the leaks know as well. They built a new part of Winterfell to use for the battle. Miguel said, "We built this massive new part of Winterfell and originally thought, we'll film this part here and this part there, and basically broke it down into so many pieces it would be shot like a Marvel movie, with never any flow or improv. Even on Star Wars, they built certain parts of the set and then add huge elements of green screen. That makes sense. There's an efficiency to that. But I turned to the producers and said, I don't want to do 11 weeks of night shoots and no one else does. But if we don't, we're going to lose what makes Game of Thrones cool, and that is that it feels real." Showrunner David added, "When you have rapid cutting in an action scene, you can tell it was all assembled in post-production. That's not the show style, and it's not Miguel's style. So they approved a schedule that became infamously known as the Long Night." Let it be known, so we wouldn't get a bunch of shit CGI scenes, actors, crew members, and directors suffered. Remember that when you bitch about the final season. Grey Worm's actor Jacob even talked about how complex the Winterfell set was, and how not having all green screen helped with the realism, revealing, "The Winterfell set is unlike anything I've seen in my life. It's not like most sets you walk through a door and you see a wood panel and equipment. You can walk into rooms and cross into tunnels and find yourself in another part of the castle. It's really immersive, especially when there is haze and snow and people running around. You can get genuinely lost. There were a few moments where I forgot it wasn't real, which is bizarre." I know that sounds like generic actor praise, but it has me so hopeful for the Battle at Winterfell and just that this final season is going to be so over the top. Here's the next interesting thing, at least to me. So we know how we saw Jor Bear with Heartsbane in the trailer they released. Well, apparently Sam will have a sword in this battle, and he will use it against a white. So he gives up his family sword and wields a different sword during the fight. I get that he thinks Jorah would be better with it, but still? Seems a bit weird. And James actually got to see some of Sam's sequences during this battle. In fact, in watching John Bradley playing Sam and wield a sword and a stuntman playing a white, he remarked, "Sam looks like a badass." To which Cogman turned to the others and said, "You hear what he just said? That's a problem. Sam isn't supposed to look like a badass." Which then made them adjust Bradley's portrayal of Sam, and in the next take of the scene, Sam looks more confused, awkward, and startled. And this next part is absolute bullshit. Bradley spoke about playing Sam during the battle, saying, "When doing these huge fight sequences, you get carried away sometimes. You want to make yourself look as good as possible. Miguel said to me, I know that you want to show you're quite good at this, but remember your character. Sam's not that good at this. You have to play him because that's what's going to be truthful. So stop being so good." Fuck you. Sam the Slayer could take on Tormund, the Hound, Unmountain, and Arthur Dayne blindfolded. I will leave you with what Maisie said about filming this huge battle at Winterfell. "The hard work pays off on the show. After one of those really tough days, you know it's going to be part of something so iconic, and it will look amazing. And thousands will shit all over your hard work, because us humans, we're just the best. Hey, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and... oh my gosh, I'm not ready for this final season. I need more Kleenex.